I am my mother's child. Not that I'm not my father's, but I'm more like my mom. You know how some people, they're born and they know exactly what they want to do, and their whole life just kind of goes in that trajectory until it comes to pass? Yeah, that's not my mom. And it wasn't and isn't still me. I've done a little bit of everything like my mom. She did a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a whole lot in between. And I feel like I too have done a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a whole lot in between. One job that I had right after an undergrad, I graduated, I became a full-time after-school director at an elementary school. At the time, they were trying to phase the position from part-time to full-time, and I had bills, so I needed another job. Fortunately, one of my parents owned a catering business, and he said, "Pia, if you ever need some extra money, let me know. I could always use you on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday." So for 2 years, I made it my business to let him know. And I worked at that job with him. We had uniforms. You purchased your own. It was black pants, a button-down white long-sleeve shirt with a black bow tie. That's what we wore. We worked weddings, reunions, family engagements, social engagements. You named it, we worked it. We served people that were sober. We served people that were soberly challenged. We served the prim and proper. We served people that were prim and proper challenged. We served the affluent, the not so affluent, every race, every religion. If you paid for the service, we served you. Serving them, for me, it was an easy job as long as I had on comfortable shoes. And the bonus was I got paid. We served, we got paid. We served, we got paid. I'm certain that for me, my motivation was the money. Would I have done it as frequently if I didn't get paid? Easy. No. This past week, there were many in the building that came to serve. They were preparing for the bazaar, an event that is deeply ingrained in the culture here at Messiah. They came with an understanding that we could do much more together than we could do separately. And if we do it together, we can complete this daunting task successfully. They came to ensure that mission and outreach would get what they needed. They came not because they were getting paid, at least financially. And as amazing job as Tina and Lois both did, they did it selfishly just to serve. They wanted Messiah, our church, to be the integral part of the community that it is, and what a success it was. Did you see all the people up here yesterday? They, along with many others, served. Now, what is this idea of serving, and how often do we serve? And I sat and as I was preparing, I said, the disciples asked Jesus, how many times should we forgive? But they never asked, how often should we serve? Maybe I'm the one that just has several questions that I just need Jesus to answer, because sometimes if you give me a number, I can work with it. But wouldn't it be like Jesus that would say 7 times 70? Something absurd that you would lose track of and you just do, that you just are. It's clear that Jesus calls each of us, as he called the disciples, into servant ministry. Today's text concludes with that statement: the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. Jesus came to serve and to be a servant. Well, what does that look like in everyday life? I read something recently and it said, what if Jesus lives in our neighborhood? And just to make it a little more relevant, what if Jesus lived right here on the corner of Rolling Road and Roxbury Avenue? What if Jesus was frequently seen strolling on Carly Parkway or Old King Mill Road? Would we do Jesus like we often do the police on the highway? You see him, so you suddenly brake, look around, wait till you've got enough distance, and resume as you were before you saw them. Would we do Jesus the same way? What would Jesus experience on a regular basis in interacting with us? Richard Foster explains the difference between a servant versus one who serves by saying these words. There's a difference between choosing to serve and choosing to be a servant. When I choose to serve, I retain control about whom I serve and when I serve. But when I choose to be a servant, I've given up all my rights and all control. In other words, service is not about adding another activity to our schedules. It's about fleshing out servanthood in our neighborhoods where God has placed us. You see, we have to improve our serve and not just think, what if Jesus lived in our neighborhood, but that Jesus does when we allow Jesus to live and be visibly seen through each of us. What if our intention was high to always serve and live a life of servanthood? Servanthood requires 3 P's. And I'm a little biased, with the name Pia. You never saw Pia in the stores. I could never find it on a license tag or stickers. So anytime that I could make anything P's, I do. So today is no different. We will look at servant ministry from the perspective of 3 P's. The first P is going to be to pause. How many of us pause intentionally every day, a couple of times a day, just to see what God is doing? If I had to be honest, pre-pregnancy, I didn't pause at all, not frequently. And even now, I don't know if I should get any credit because now I'm forced to pause. I don't necessarily choose to pause. Cheryl A. Backleader, the CEO of Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, turned her company around with a focus on serving others. A committed Christian in the workplace, she's also the author of Dare to Serve, How to Drive Superior Results by Serving Others. In a recent interview, she shares these thoughts. The Bible verse on my calendar every day is Philippians 2:3. Because I haven't found one that's more paramount to how I want to lead in my family and in my work. And that is, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. I really like the choice of words around counting others more significant than yourselves. I believe we're all born with an inner 2-year-old within ourselves, and we'd really still like to be laying on the floor, kicking and screaming because we did not get the candy bar that we wanted. It's pretty hardwired that we're self-absorbed little people, and we learn to fake it well, but we're still pretty much that 2-year-old on the inside. I find that biblical perspective really challenging in every aspect of my day. How I'm spending my time, the decisions that I make. I have to put them through a filter of whether I'm thinking about myself or if I'm thinking about others. Am I doing this because I'll get a bigger bonus check? Or am I really thinking about the long-term interest of this company? Am I doing this truly for my franchise owners? Or am I getting some personal benefit that I haven't been willing to acknowledge? Those kinds of provocative self-mirror questions hold you to a higher standard. I always say servant leadership is an aspiration because you can never really claim that you've arrived. Because as soon as you do, something or someone will find you and you look up in a trap of self-interest. It's something you're always working toward. We must pause to consider others. We're innately wired to think about ourselves, even as we serve others. What's our motive? What is our why? Jesus, as a servant, paused. Think of the many times that he communicated with God. Before he did something, after he did something, in the midst of something, he paused, ensuring that he was not operating just in and of himself, taking moments of rest and to regain clarity and peace. As servants, we too have to pause. As servants, we also have to prepare. Think about it. How many in this room are going to make Thanksgiving dinner without creating any kind of list or having any kind of plan? As much as I adore you, I'm not coming to your house. It takes some preparation to ensure that you're going to have the meal that you desire. My sister did Thanksgiving a couple of years ago, and she went over the list at least 10 times. She asked everybody, what do you want? Is there anything specific? Do you need? What? Preparation is key. Now, depending on your age, I know you know Batman. You may know it in the comic books. You may remember the TV show or the movies. Regardless of your connection, I'm sure you remember my good friend, Alfred, Bruce Wayne's loyal and tireless butler, valet, friend, and father figure. Now, while Batman is fighting enemies, he knows that back at the Wayne Manor resides someone who's taking care of everything else. Someone he can trust to keep all of his secrets, who cares about him just as much as any father, and who, through the quiet service, makes it possible for Batman to do what he does. Resourceful and calm. Alfred may not be the one that enjoys all these exciting adventures, but he's a vital part of Wayne's life, with skills varied as maintaining the Batmobile, building the Bat computer, keeping the Caped Crusader's costume in pristine condition. But Alfred also provides first aid, removing bullets, so Batman doesn't have to go to the hospital when he's injured. Depending on which Batman servant you follow, Alfred has also mastered rose breeding, even creating his own, the Pennyworth Blue. He's mastered computer programming, computer engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, nanotechnology, and biotechnology, as he has single-handedly prepared and built programs to maintain much of Batman's next generational technology. A servant has to be prepared. A servant gains knowledge and wisdom in multiple areas because they're ready to serve. Do we sit in the ready position to live a lifestyle of serving? Servants pause. Jesus did. Servants prepare. Yep, even Jesus. But also servants push or they persevere. I mean, anybody in the room ever try to garden, plant your own vegetables? Yep, I know the roaches. So I tried a couple of years ago, and I'm so thankful that John and Nancy Roach said, Pia will help you. Because I had no idea what I was doing, none. And the first year we did things, I got a lot of nothing. I did get a lot of slugs, but nothing that was edible. The second year we tried again, praise God, they worked with me. And I actually got some vegetables like green beans, stuff that I recognized, stuff that was edible. But my issue was I couldn't control when things would happen. I wanted green beans now. I wanted cucumbers now. I wanted squash and zucchini now. And truthfully, had they not pushed me, I don't know that I would have tried for year 2. And next year, prayerfully, they'll help me try again. Pushing, persevering. One evening, as an anonymous author writes, while watering the garden, the sheer sacrifice of true service overwhelmed them. There amongst the tomatoes and the parsley, they realized that most of their previous attempts at service was much like the garden hose in their hand. They said, I was in control, dictating how, when, and to whom I would serve. With my nifty sprayer, I could even stop the water altogether when I felt like it. The flow of Christ's love that I gave to others depended on my mood, the health of my career, and even how much sleep I got the night before. Mine was, and still is, a self-righteous, self-gratifying service. Now, in contrast, they noticed the soaker hose in the planter across from them. It watered the ground completely and indiscriminately. Dozens of holes let the water loose and had no shutoff switch. Life-giving water oozed out all over the place, like it or not. To serve like a soaker hose means to pour out Christ's love from every pore of our beings, not concerning ourselves with the timing, the effect it might have on our productivity, or the worthiness of the recipients. If God has turned on the water, so to speak, in our lives, filling us with life-giving springs, why would we hold them back from anyone? For fear of running out? I mean, doesn't he have an infinite supply of living water? Are we like the garden hose or the sprinkler? Remember, even Jesus paused. Even Jesus prepared. Even Jesus pushed. I leave you with these words. In the early 1890s, there's a French painter by the name of Auguste Renoir. He overheard 2 of his colleagues talking, Edgar and Jean-Louis. They were talking about this technology miracles that was recently happening and keeping Paris abuzz. You know, the telephone. Apparently, Jean-Louis was very proud of being one of the first people to own one. So Edgar goes, does it work well? Jean-Louis, very well. You turn a handle and the bell rings, and at the other end of the wire, a person in the other apartment that you're calling, he can unhook it and you can talk just like you were in the same room. So after reflecting a moment, Edgar said, so does it work the other way around? He goes, of course. So you're telling me when the bell rings, you get up and you answer it? Yes. Certainly. Just like a servant, paused. Has technology or any other thing consumed you in this way that you become a servant to it? Is it technology? Is it us? Is it stuff? Or do we imitate Jesus? And do we understand that we get to really ultimately be the Jesus that lives in our neighborhood? Even Jesus paused. Even Jesus prepared. Even Jesus pushed. Even Jesus. Amen.